And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Okay, moving along to tonight's weather, we've got this somewhat weakening front here, bringing snow and an increase in the winds here to the southwest part of the state. Another trough with a little more light snow, St. Lawrence Island across the Seward Peninsula and the Kobuk Valley. Otherwise, not too bad through here. And then areas of light snow and snow showers, a chance of there from the southern Brooks Range all the way down into the Kenai Peninsula. And precipitation starting to increase Kodiak Island as this system moves up the Alaska Peninsula there. A lot of snow showers out to the west over the Aleutian southern Bering Sea. Chance of rain or snow over the southern Panhandle, dry to the north. For tomorrow, chance of showers across the entire southeast coast, especially in the north coast here associated with that weak trough. This system now low pressure just south of the Kenai Peninsula. Another increase pushing more moisture north and northwestward here into the North Gulf Coast. So chance of snow again across just about all of southern Alaska. Dry to the north. And a couple of low pressure areas over the Bering Sea. Keeps a widespread area of snow, snow showers, and areas of light snow. Getting a little gusty on the northwest winds there out over the western Aleutians. And then for Wednesday, same pattern here, except the main low now just southeast of the Pribilof Islands. So the stronger winds set up over the eastern Aleutians. Areas of light snow again, southern and western Alaska. And the southeast coast will see an increase in the wind and precipitation throughout the day. For the Panhandle tomorrow, northwest winds, 15 knots on the south coast, north winds at 10 knots. Lynn Canal, Stevens Passage, Glacier Bay, north winds 10 knots, seas 2 feet, Clarence Strait, north winds 15 knots. And for Wednesday, Clarence Strait, south winds at 15 knots, southeast 20 for Stevens Passage, southeast 15 for Lynn Canal. South winds 15 knots here on the south coast of the Panhandle, south to southwest at about 20 knots for the central coast and the north coast. Same thing, south to southwest winds, 15 to 20 knots with 10 to 12 foot seas. Prince William Sound tomorrow, east winds 30 knots, seas 6 feet. Southeast 30-knot winds for the eastern North Gulf Coast, turn east at 30 here for the west side. Barren Islands, east 25 knots. Gale warnings, Kamishak Bay, northeast winds 35 knots, northeast 30 for southern Cook Inlet, north of 20, north of the Forelands. And for Wednesday, northern Cook Inlet, northeast winds 15 knots, north of 20 knots for southern Cook Inlet to Kamishak Bay. Lighter northwest winds 15 knots for the Barren Islands. And southwest 20 knots here for the western North Gulf Coast. Off to the east, small craft advisories for south to southeast winds 25 to 30 knots. And Prince William Sound, east winds down to 15 knots, seas subsiding to 3 feet. Kodiak Island, gale warning, southeast winds 35 knots. Alaska Peninsula, southwest winds 20 to 25 knots, turn southerly at 25 knots for Bristol Bay. And then on Wednesday, light variable winds for Bristol Bay, the Alaska Peninsula, variable to west-southwest, 10 to 15 knots. Kodiak Island, northwest to southwest wind at 20 knots with 5 to 10 foot seas. Eastern Aleutians, west-southwest winds, 30 knots. Adak and Atka, southwest winds at 30 knots. And western Aleutians out here, Kiska to Shemya, gale warnings, northwest winds 40 knots, seas over 20 feet. And then for Wednesday, the gales shift eastward here into the central Aleutians out of the west at 35 knots. And for the eastern Aleutians, west winds 30 to 35 knots. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, east winds 25 knots. Norton Sound, northeast at 20, St. Lawrence Island, east winds 20 knots. East winds 30 knots for St. Matthew Island. Southwest at 20 with 11-foot seas for the Pribilofs. And then for Wednesday, St. Paul and St. George Island, north at 15, St. Matthew Island, north at 20, Yukon Delta Coast, St. Lawrence Island, north winds 15 knots, northwest at 10 for the Kuskokwim Delta Coast, and about north at 10 for Norton Sound. And for the Arctic coast tomorrow, east winds 10 knots, and the Chukchi Sea, northeast winds 15 to 20 knots. And looking ahead to Wednesday, for the Chukchi Sea, north to northwest winds 15 to 25 knots, western Arctic coast northeast at 15 knots, central and east side, east winds at 10 knots.